his office so he can look out at the garden and the birds, and so he can have the aircon there. So that's great. I make do with a little fan down my end, and I'm okay.
Yeah, it's
So
necessary.
yeah, so that's it. But I don't feel it as much as he does. He feels it a lot more than me. All right, so you are. Let me make you co-host.
Yep, thank you.
All right, there we go. And now we should start hopefully seeing people. We had a good turnout for the first class, so I hope for this one it'll be the same. There we go, 2 coming in. That's nice. Hi, Henry. Hi, Tara. Lovely to have you in. And Glennis, I think it's Glennis is coming in. Hi. Oh, hi. Welcome. You're on. Your audio is still connecting. Hi, Tara. Lovely to have you in class. Great. Where are you from, Tara?
India.
India. Okay. Is it hot there at the moment?
It's 8:30 morning.
Okay. Yeah, we are in Australia and it's cold. So we are in winter and everybody else is getting hot and we're going, oh, it's a chilly day today.
It's raining.
It's raining. Yeah, it's raining here too, on and off. And Glennis, where are you from? Are you on mute at the moment? Can you unmute? Still on mute? Yeah, there we go.
I'm in southern Adelaide and it's really cold here too. We expect rain in a day or so, but chilly.
Lovely to have another person from Australia. That's awesome. We're slowly seeing Australians coming into class, and it's always so exciting to see you coming into class. So, yeah, Adelaide gets a lot colder than Perth, though.
Yes.
Perth doesn't get that cold, but for us, it's cold.
It does. And we tend to get your heavy rainfalls a few days later. Not quite as heavy, but we do.
Yeah, well, you're about to get, because we've got rain for 3 days at the moment, so you'll get it. It'll
in a couple of days, so
it'll arrive in Adelaide. Oh, beautiful! I've only been in Australia 3 years, and I've only ever stayed in Perth. And in fact, some of the learners were saying to me, "We know nothing about Perth. Don't you want to do a class on Perth?"
Yeah,
so next Friday, I'm doing a class on Perth called "Welcome to Perth." Because even Tracy, who lives on the East Coast, she says, I know nothing about Perth. So, and she's lived there all her life. So
when are you doing the class?
Next Friday morning at 7 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock your time.
Yeah, I haven't looked at tutoring.
No, it's not up yet. It'll only go up later today.
Oh, good.
So it'll be there
the next couple of days and things. So
yeah, next week goes up at the end of today. Usually our next following week goes up. Yeah. So
if I leave the session early, which I'll probably have to, don't think it's because of you. I tutor and it starts at 10 o'clock, so I'll need to leave just beforehand.
I fully understand, because I tutor as well. I tutor online, and so I also know exactly that. So don't worry, I quite accept that. Hi, Linda, and hi, Henry. Lovely to have you in class. Where are you from? Okay, they might talk just now. Sometimes people take a little while to warm up. Todd is my TA today, and he's here if there's any technical problems or anything else. Linda, where are you from?
I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Very nice to have you in class too. That's excellent.
Thank you.
Right. There should be a few more popping in along the way, and I hope they do join us. Today, we're talking about using things that we have in our homes that we never thought we could use in the garden. And I'm going to be showing you how to use them in your garden as well. So let me start to share my screen and go to And we can begin. Right, so upcycling garden time. We can find an old bicycle that we had when we had children. We can now use that bicycle that has gathered dust for years in the garage and put pots on it and turn it into something really beautiful. And we can basically use any container that you have, and depending on whether you place it upright, whether you place it flat, you can use it in many, many different ways. And today I'm going to show you a variety of things. There are plenty of ideas, and I hope that one idea will come to your mind and you'll go, aha, yeah, I think I can do that, and you will use it. Of course, in America, it's spring and summer, so you are all outside in your gardens. For us, we are watching our gardens from within because it's a little on the chilly side, and watching the birds and so on that are there. In fact, now the parrots are on the bird feeder. We have magnificent parrots that come into our garden as well. So let's begin. We all learn from each other. So ideally having your cameras on is awesome because it shows, then I'm able to talk to people. If you are a bit shy, as long as you talk, that's also just fine, because it helps us to know and because these classes are interactive. We want the input. We want you to speak up, tell us about things. I've got pictures that have been taken by some of the learners of what they've used some of their indoor stuff for, and I've incorporated them into my presentation, and I'll show you which ones they are as we go along. If you'd like a recording after the class, help@getsetup.io, but I do send that in my email as well. If you're joining by live streaming, well, sit back, enjoy, but if you want to take part, you have to join us, and then you can be part of the class. And we are not paid to promote any product. So if I mention anything, it's purely what I use. Now, a little bit about me. My name is Sue. I live in Perth, Australia. I've been here for 3 years. I come from South Africa. My husband and I live here very happily now, as I say, for 3 years. He's also a guide. And so we take turns to be in class, which is also awesome. In fact, he's finishing his class at the moment. I've been an educator for 44 years, but now here on Get Set Up, I have the opportunity to share ideas and to just chat with my peers. And for me, that is so awesome. I enjoy creating and making things, including puzzles, and I've got a great love of animals. That's why I have an animal series. And of course, being a guide is an added bonus. So welcome to my garden. My garden's small here in Australia. It's very tiny, but in there I have a variety of little things that I've added to it, and I'm forever adding things to my garden. We've got our arch with our plants growing on it. We've got bird feeders. We've got pieces of wood, baskets that were baskets I've cut in half and I'm now using as baskets on the walls. So there are all sorts of things you can use. And I have little gnomes all over the garden. So I have a gnome garden. Right, so let's see what unusual things we can use in our garden. We're going to talk about using chairs. How many of you ever thought of using a chair in the garden? Well, I've got ideas of that. Tires. You always leave your tires at the shop when you buy new tires. Don't. We can use them for so many different things. Old shoes. Your 5-litre milk containers, your 2-litre milk containers, your water containers. Those can become fantastic planters for plants. Pieces of wood. So often we walk past a piece of wood and we just look at it, or there's wood in your garden and it just lies there. No, use it. Use it in different ways. You can also use your old drawers when a cupboard has collapsed. And any old buckets that you might have, don't toss them. It doesn't matter that they are rusty. It doesn't matter if they've got a hole in it. We need a hole for the water. So you can use your buckets in awesome ways to create some really beautiful parts of your gardens. Right. How many of you have used things from inside your house outside? Any of you? Yes, Glenys, what have you done? Oh, you're on mute? You can press the space bar and just hold it down. That will also unmute you. Oops, keep it down. Yeah.
Teapots and bowls, and I'm sure there's lots of other things that's not on top of my tongue. So.
Okay, fantastic. Well, as we go along, maybe we'll see something go, oh, yes, I use that. And so we move from there. Tara, Henry, or Linda, have you used any of the things? No? Okay, well, hopefully you're going to start using different things in your garden. Now, the first one I want to talk about are chairs. So often we've got favorite chairs, but now they're a bit rickety and we're a bit scared to sit on them. We don't want to fall and break a hip. So that chair gets banished to the garage, or it gets banished up into the loft. Don't do that. Take it, paint it with a waterproof paint so that it's very hardy outside, and then cut a hole where the seat was. And into that you place pots. And then you can grow anything and everything, and it becomes a feature. It can be a feature on your patio. It can be a feature in the middle of the garden. You can really use it in so many different ways. And then you don't lose that really special chair that you once used often. So chairs are wonderful things to use. And you can just, if you put pots into them, as those flowers die off, put a fresh pot in and take those and put them where they can start to regenerate again. Once they're flowering again, put them back into so you can have a cycle going where you've got spring flowers, summer flowers, autumn flowers, and winter flowers. And you just change your pots in your chair, and that then changes the whole ambience of the area where you are. Because remember, they are always letting off oxygen. They're letting off peace and harmony, because plants live in harmony. So that harmonious feeling is there for you as well. So as having plants inside, having plants outside is very important for your well-being. If you've only got an apartment, that's not a problem. You can make wonderful indoor gardens. And with your indoor garden, you can have a herb garden, you can have a flower garden, you can have a succulent garden. You can do so many different things. So try and always have plants nearby. They are so healthy for you. And a lot of them even take in contaminants that are in the air as well. Right. Now, who thinks they might like to try a chair at some stage in their garden? Glenys, you're going to try. Tyra, would you use one in your garden? Would you try and use one, Tyra?
No.
No. Have you ever thought of using a chair?
Now I'm thinking of using it.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with a chair that you thought was useless. You can turn it into something really beautiful. So there you are. That's one idea that you might want to use. And Henry and Linda, how about you? Are you going to try a chair possibly somewhere? You can do it indoors and outdoors. So it doesn't actually always have to be outdoors, but you can certainly make it into a feature. Right, now let's look at the next one. Now, we see wood in many places. There might be a tree stump. There might be a log of wood. And we just walk past these things. And you know, you can use them in so many different ways. We have a little a reserve. I call it a forest because to me it looks like a forest, but it's small. So it's a reserve here in Perth, right 50 meters from my home. So every day we walk in the reserve in amongst the trees, and we walk not only on the paths, there are nature paths as well. And we find interesting pieces of wood. And I've brought these pieces of wood home, and they have now become features in my garden. The two pictures in the center are two of the pieces of wood I brought home. The one I've just planted in front of it and then put some little gnomes climbing all over it. And the other one, I've also planted a little in it and then some in front so that it now looks as if it's part of the garden. And it just gives your garden that lovely little feel. But the best thing to do is if you do have wood and you want to use it to plant in, you can use a little chisel or even a knife can do it. You just use a hammer on it very gently. It's soft inside, the wood is soft inside. Hollow out some, add some soil, put your plants in. If you only hollow out a little, then use succulents. But if you hollow out a lot, you can plant anything you want in it. And then that log becomes a feature. And you can really turn it into beautiful pieces. You can chop your log into different little round pieces and then plant in them. You can make some small, some big, and so you can plant and create. You can even put some wheels on it and turn it into a little cart made out of wood with a little axle on it, and you can move that around to wherever you want. But if you've only got a little piece of wood, you can still create with a little piece of wood. You can have a beautiful little garden, little succulent garden. You can take it inside, outside, and use it wherever you want because it doesn't require a lot of water. Just needs a spray of water every now and again, and your succulents will grow beautifully in it. So wood is a wonderful way of having live plants. Who has used wood yet? Have any of you used wood? Any of you even thought of using wood? It's something we forget. It's there, it's nature, but we don't think to use it. And it is really such a wonderful thing to use. Hands up anybody that thinks they might try using a piece of wood to create something. Anybody? No? Okay. Right. Now, let's continue. Right. Now, things you've got in the house, in the garage, or in the up in the attic, old baskets that you can't use anymore because the handle is a bit rickety and you're scared to use it to go shopping because you'd probably lose half your shopping. You take those baskets and line them with a thick plastic. Then you can either put pots into them or you can put soil directly in. Just make sure you make a few holes at the bottom so that the water can drain out. You don't want to drown your plants. So it's ideal to put them into the plastic and then just a few holes at the bottom. They make a lovely thing to put on the stairway, put on the patio, put anywhere that you want to put them. They will look really beautiful. And now they've got a whole new use. My watering can, what I do with my watering can, or I did in South Africa, was I put made some holes at the bottom, just 2 little holes. I then put some soil in and then took off the nozzle and threaded ivy through and put the roots of the ivy inside the plant, inside the pot. Then I added the rest of my soil. Now, when I hang my pot up, my watering can up, the ivy looks like water as it flows out, and it really looks so attractive. And then you put brightly colored flowers at the top. Makes a lovely hanging item on your patio or wherever you want to put it. You can use old colanders. They work wonders because they've already got holes in them. But I put some very thin mesh, I line it with thin mesh, and then so that the sand doesn't fall through, the water can, sand stays in, and you're able to plant a number of really pretty plants in there as well. Old shoes. Who ever thought of putting something in an old shoe? But if you've used, or your husband has used these shoes for years and you kind of don't want to throw them out, why? Put some plastic in, and you can either put a pot into the shoe or you can put sand in, but a pot is probably the best. And then the flowers grow out of those shoes and they become a feature in the garden. Those shoes have been wet hundreds of times while you were wearing them, so they're pretty hardy. And then lastly is one of the pictures sent to me by one of the people who was in class. She did her bathroom up. And so she took the toilets, she had, I think, 4 toilets altogether, and she placed them down the driveway, one on either side of the garage and then 2 further down, and she filled them with plants. And they became such a lovely feature in her property. People think she's crazy putting a toilet in her garden. But in South Africa, we also had somebody in a little town called Rouville. And they had put every kind of plumbing into their garden. And then the neighbors started doing that. And so we jokingly called it Louville instead of Rouville because of all the toilets that were visible in people's gardens that were now being used as planters. They're a very useful planter. And using it again, reusing something that you have. So who has reused something? Who's reused something in the garden? Have any of you thought about taking something and putting it in the garden? Glenys, have you got anything in your garden?
Not in my present garden. Yesterday when I was out, a friend had an old bathroom basin and he'd set it up with flowers, and I thought that's a good idea. I could do that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Off the top of our head, no, it's a new garden and I don't have a lot of so-called junk, and I culled a lot of things. But I'm sitting here thinking tomorrow I'll go to an op shop.
I was going to say op shop or salvos. Go and see what you can find because there are lots of awesome things that are junk to others but are gold to you. They really do become a gold mine to get all the things that will make ideas for you. But now we're going to go on to tires. Have you ever used tires in your garden? I know most people just leave them behind at the tire shop. So let's see how we can use tires. Now, you can hang a tire on a wall and put plants in the bottom. I did that in South Africa. I'm too scared to do that here, because those very large hunting spiders that come over the wall, I don't want to put my hand in there and find a spider. They are a lot bigger than where I used to live. So I haven't hung a tire on the wall. I've been more circumspect about it. But you certainly can, and it's very, very beautiful and easy to do. You can also take a tire and you take the one wall. There's one wall of the tire, either wall, top or bottom, and you flip it up and now you can cut it. So you can make it wavy or you can make it pointy, and then you paint it with acrylic paint. You can paint it any color that you would like to paint it. And then underneath I put some mesh to hold the soil in and a few stones to hold the mesh in place. And then I put the soil in and plant. And it really works so well. You can make really pretty planters using your old tires. You can also, when I was young, we had a rockery, and I used to spend hours sitting as queen of the castle on the top of the rockery. Well, getting rocks here is not that easy to do, but Tyres can make a beautiful display, placing them on top of each other, using the method that I've used before, and then planting your flowers inside them. All one color, mixed colors. You can make a beautiful wall of Tyres that is a flower wall. In it, you can go to the tire shops. They are pretty happy to part with them because they just send them on for recycling. So they don't mind if you either take yours with you or ask for some others. And then you are able to have a tire wall, or you can do it in many different ways. It's entirely up to you. You can also cut one wall out altogether and then turn them into vegetable gardens. So you can put 1 or 2 veggies in there, depending on how many people you're wanting to feed. You can have all of one type, or you can have 2 types growing in there. And so it's very easy, very quick to have a simple vegetable garden. You can also shred your tire. So you take the shred and turn it upside down. Keep one of the rims so that it really looks beautiful, and take the other rim and tie it around. And you can turn it into a basket. And that really looks so pretty. And then you put your flowers in the bottom. But what I enjoyed doing the most, I think, was turning my tires, a large tire, into a little pond, because we only had a small garden in South Africa as well. So what we did was we took it, and at first I put plastic, but later on I actually cemented it in. And then whenever we were out, I collected rocks and stones, little rocks, little stones. Every time we went for a walk, I came home with a bag full of stones, and we proceeded to put them around the tire. You can build it up at the back and then put a pump in there, a solar pump, and then you can have the water going around in your little water feature. I did try putting in some goldfish, but the owls and some of the other birds and the cats, the goldfish didn't stand a chance. So eventually I just had a few floating plants and then some little ornaments around it. But it was so beautiful to sit. It was quite close to a lapa that we had, where we would sit in the cool out of the sun and hear this water flowing beautifully in it. So it really became a lovely feature, and it's small enough to be in a small garden. So it really was useful. Right. Now, has anybody thought of using Tyres before? No, these are all things we've got that we just throw out. But there's so much you can do with them. It is wonderful, the different things you can do. And I've got more things to do with Tyres now as well. So there are a lot of really interesting things. Linda, have you ever thought of using Tyres?
Yeah, but I was trying to see how you feel about them, man.
I take thin mesh. I go to the local, we call it Bunnings, but the local hardware store, and you can buy mesh by the meter. And I buy a thin mesh, one that's got little holes, and I cut the piece to fit the right size, a bit bigger than the right size, and I put rocks in the edge, around the edges, to hold it in place.
That's what you were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's worth giving it a try. It really is. It's worth giving it a try.
I've seen them, and people have painted the tires and had plants off in them in their front yards, actually, not in the garden.
Now you can put yours in as well. I've done potatoes as well. When I was teaching, we used to grow potatoes. We would take 4 tires and would start with 1, and as it grew, so we'd put more soil, and by the time it got to number 4, we would then, I had cut a slit in the tires, just one slit down the tires. I would pull the tire open, and pull out all the soil and the potatoes, and then put that one on top. So I only needed 4 every time. Then we would wait for it to grow, and then we would take the next on. And the children loved it. We had roast potato, we had potato salad, we had chips, we had all sorts of mashed potato, and they really enjoyed growing their potatoes. And it was a simple, easy way to do it, and it was fun as well.
Yeah.
So they really enjoyed being part of that. Now, other things you can do with your tires. There are plenty more things to do with our tires. So let's have a look and see. We can make furniture. Furniture is awesome. I always made Tyre furniture for my classroom, and I've made for my grandchildren here. Taking your tire, all you do is stuff your tire with old cushions or old pillows, anything like that, or buy stuffing, and you put it inside a bag of its own, and then put a very pretty piece of material over it. And then that piece of material is able to be washed, and then the children sit on it. They fight as to who's going to sit on the tire. They really enjoy the tires. You can also use a stump in the garden and put, I would use plasticized material over the tire with stuffing inside it, and you can make mushrooms in the garden, which is a lovely idea. You can also use it for your dog. If your dog has decided that it chews its bed all the time, it'll never get through a tire. Never get through a tire. So it can sit happily. It'll chew its bedding, but not the tire. For little children, you can get a bigger tire from the tire place, and an old tire, and you can turn it into a sand pit in winter and a water pit in summer, so they can swim in summer and have sand in winter. And they really do enjoy it when they are little. You can build swings with them. You can build all sorts of amazing pieces of playground equipment for children with it. I always had 2 tires on my patio with a piece of glass on top. And then inside, I would put some plastic. And then as soon as it looked like rain, I would lift up this glass, pop in all the cushions, put down the glass, and my cushions were always dry. I didn't have to go rushing around and take them inside or just let them get wet. It was a quick 1-2 into the table, and then close it and go back inside. So I saved many cushions that way. You can also use pallets as a little low table, maybe under a tree where you sometimes want to go and sit. And then you can use tires as the seats, and you can just put a piece of wood over them, slatted wood over them. You can even use part of a crate, part of a pallet to use as your base for your wood. And you can get people to cut it for you at your local hardware. They're very good about cutting things, particularly when you say you're old and you don't know how to do it. That's the best card to play. Oh, I don't know how to do that, and I don't have the equipment. Can you help me? And 99% of the time, they disappear off and do whatever you've asked with a smile on their face. They've done something for somebody older. And then you can also make chairs, which are very useful by using just 4 tires and a baby tire. This is nice if you've got a pool area, because people can sit on them. They're very comfortable, and then they don't make the seats wet because they've hopped out of the pool. They can then sit there and then hop back into the pool without any problems. So there are a lot of things that you can make with your tires. Have I sparked some interest in you? Does anybody think they're going to give a tire a chance? Glynis says no. She's not so sure about giving a tire a chance. But
the jury is still out on how organic they are. You know,
look,
and road pollutants. So
My husband does a lot of research. We eat only organic if we can possibly help it. And in all the research he's found, he hasn't found anything that affects the organic soil at all from the Tyres. So we use our Tyres, but, you know, it depends on where you look.
I've seen other things, but anyway, personal opinion, it's like bringing junk home that I'm not really happy with. Sorry, I'll bring other junk home and I'll recycle, and I'm a hoarder, but I don't want Tyres. That's personal.
No, that's personal. That's fair enough. Absolutely. Everybody's got their choices of what they want to use. Absolutely. No, I quite agree with you on that. It depends entirely on you. Right. Now, these are some other things that we have around the house. Old wheelbarrows can turn into really beautiful fairy and gnome gardens and ordinary gardens very easily and become a feature in your garden. You can take pallets and hang them on the wall, and then use your old baking trays that you're not using anymore. By just using a nut and bolt, you can bolt them onto the pallet, and then have your plants growing in those. Just make sure there's 1 or 2 holes to let out the extra water. You can also use the pallet as it is and put your different herbs in it, because you don't want too much soil. You don't want your herbs growing too big. I have 2 herbs that I bought at the same time. One's in a little pot and it's still beautiful in its little pot. The other one has grown to 2 meters high because I put it in a big pot, and it is actually not looking so good because it's done its whole thing, it's flowered, and now the basil's not looking as good. We have to cut it back and let it grow again. While the little one in the little pot is doing really well for us to use for our daily eating purposes. Right. And of course, my husband does microgreens, so those are very, very healthy to eat as well. Now, your old bird cage. What do you do with an old bird cage? You put it in the garage. Well, take it out. If it doesn't have a thing around the bottom that you can put soil in, just use some balsa wood, because that bends easily, and put it in to give you a little bit of a place to be able to put soil. Pop your soil in. You can also use coir, the coconut mats. You can also use those to hold your soil in, and then plant your plants and allow them to grow out of it and hang down. You can make a really beautiful garden out of that. Your old tins and pots and containers, you can plant all sorts of really beautiful things in those and allow them to grow and make it into a feature. My stepdaughter does not wear shoes. She only wears sneakers, and even for her wedding, she only wore sneakers. And she didn't want those sneakers to get dirty afterwards. So what we've done is she's put plastic inside them, put a little pot in, and it's now in her lounge in London. And she grows flowers in her shoes from her wedding. And she's got them, and they really look, she stood one up slightly and one flat, and she's made a feature out of it. And it looks really awesome. So that is one of the things she's done with her sneakers. But any shoes, you can just line with plastic and then put in your pot of plant that you want to plant. All right, let's have a look at some other useful uses that we have. Your old suitcase of any description can be turned into a flower pot. Your ladder can be used for so many uses. You can put it out with plants growing on it, or what I do is I do have a ladder that I can use for that. But when we're having people, we don't have much space on our little patio. So I put the ladder out, I put some planks of wood over with some serviettes on it, and I put the food on the ladder. And then everybody can help themselves, and away they go. And I can put a net over the top because the top of the ladder is higher. So when everybody's helped themselves, I put a net for the flies over it, and everybody can then come and take whatever they want from it. So it becomes a very useful table as well. And then when I'm finished, we pack it up, it goes back in the garage till I need it again. So ladders can be used for so many things. Old pieces of furniture that really are not strong enough to be able to be used as they were, paint them brightly, put some flowers into the drawers or on top of them, and turn them into a lovely feature outside or inside for that matter. Old paint tins, clean them out nicely, and then paint them the color you want, put rickrack or anything that will give you the texture that you want. And then just as a pretty, you can put a thick rope through. You wouldn't necessarily pick them up by the rope, but it becomes a feature. It turns it into a feature container. Your bricks that have got holes at the top, you can plant all sorts of succulents in there. And here in Australia, we've got hanging succulents that you just need to put them in and they start to hang down your wall. We've planted some, somebody gave us some, and they've really taken off and they're growing down the wall very nicely now in a place where we really didn't know what to put there. And then lastly, your old fork or your old spade. You can attach buckets to it using wire, using nut and bolts, and then just attach them to it. And they become a feature now because they're no longer sharp enough to be able to use in the garden. Hang them on the wall, turn them into something special. Makes a very pretty hanger. And lastly, if you plant seeds, which we do, we buy seeds and then they go in the drawer, and then you find some more seeds and you come back and say, oh, I've already got those. So rather than that, you can put a shutter and just attach them to the shutter. Or if you don't have shutters, use an old picture frame. Put some string across the picture frame tightly, and then using pegs, peg the seed packets to the strings that you've put across the picture frame. It makes for a very interesting one, and you can then see immediately which seeds you've got, which seeds you need to buy again, and it looks actually very attractive wherever you are doing your planting. Keeps your seeds looking good and visible, because once they're in a drawer, you do forget about them often. Right, has anybody seen any ideas they might like to try? Glynis? The
last few days I've been looking at ideas for pallets, and I'm going to be looking seriously at getting some. So
excellent.
Storing plants or displaying plants or something like that.
Absolutely. Pallets can be used for so many things. They really do make for a wonderful thing. And Tara and Linda, any of you seen anything that you think you might like to try? Not at the moment. Okay. All right. Let's continue to where we're going now. Now, containers. Anything can be used for your plants. You can paint the inside, paint the outside, and use them. Old drawers, just make sure you don't put anything that requires too much water, because eventually it will rot. But if you paint the wood with a waterproof paint, you'll be fine. And then you attach it to a wooden fence. It looks so attractive, an old drawer from a cupboard. Filing cabinets. Who would have thought of using a filing cabinet out in the garden and fill it with flowers, painted bright colors? Buckets. Old barrels. Often you will see those around. Barrels can be filled. Old paint containers, old containers that you used to do your washing of your floor, your watering cans, pots, even your beautiful china that your grandmother gave you. And what do I do with it? put some succulents in it, and you can make a display for indoors, or outdoors for that matter, with your teapot and your cups and saucers. So any form of container can be used. Using it lying on its side and then having a little garden coming out of it makes it look so attractive. It looks like the flowers are flowing out of it. It just makes a feature in the garden. Little features everywhere just add to the beauty of your garden. Whether it's a small garden or a large garden, it really doesn't matter. You can turn so many things into features. Right, the hanging gardens, we have hanging gardens where you can put all your different plants into the 2-liter bottles. You can take your 2-liter bottle. Oh, one more thing before I do hanging gardens. This is a tin can. And what I've done with the tin, let me put it in front of me. I've taken my tin can and I've taken cool drink bottle lids. And I'm slow, on purpose, I didn't finish it because I wanted you to see the back, but I've made a few of these with different color lids. And then you've got your tin can. It's no longer looks like a tin can. It now is a beautiful feature. I'll show it again when I stop sharing. You take your bottom of your 2-liter containers and you cut it so that you've got an extra long. Let me just actually do this quickly. There are 2 things I want to show you. Right, you pull it up and then, so you cut with an extra piece. You then can bring it down, and I put a peg on it until it bends down naturally. Then you can just use a nut and bolt and attach it to whatever you are wanting to attach it to, which is what we're going to look at now. And then you can also use your bottles this way up, because when you're using them this way up, when you water, you can just loosen the cap, let any excess water out, and tighten the cap again, which then allows them to drain very nicely. And I'll show you what we do with those. You can make lovely herb gardens with those. So let's look at those ideas that we've got here. Right, here we've used our containers that you get your softener in, any of those kind of bottles. You can put them onto pallets. There's another choice for you, Glenys, using pallets. You can put the bottles on like that, or you can do the hanging, the one where I've shown you where you hook it over and then you just screw it on, and then you've got individual ones. If you're painting your bottles, I don't use a paintbrush because it leaves stripes. I use a sponge, and you sponge it on, and then often there are little bits where it doesn't seem to stick. Then once it's dry, just do it over those spots and you have a beautifully covered thing. So you can paint it any color you want with acrylic paint. You can also take the tops, which I spoke about earlier, and attach them to a piece of wood or to a pallet for that matter, and hang them upside down as your herb garden. And then you just loosen the lid whenever you are going to have, when you've watered them, it allows them to drain very nicely. And it's a simple, easy herb garden that you've made. A nice, a simple, quick outside your kitchen door where you can go and help yourself to whatever you need when you are cooking. So those are a lovely thing to be able to do. Now, the last thing I want to cover are ingenious ideas using bottles. You can make a retaining wall using bottles that you put sand into. It's stronger than any brick. And so you can make a feature wall using bottles. You can use your old Wellington boots and put plants in them. But if you're wanting to make a sprinkler system and your sprinkler is not working, or you want it in 2 places, if you make little holes at the bottom of a bottle and attach it to your hose, it gives you a strong spray. If you want a very light spray coming out, just make holes along the top of your bottle, and then as it fills up, so it sprays out very nicely indeed. If you want a plant that's not growing too well and needs a little bit of TLC, just put a bottle top over it, take the lid off that, and then it gives it a warm environment, it gives it a safe environment, and the plant will start to flourish very quickly with that. You can also make, using bottle tops, you can make, that's my, oh, which way do I go? I've only just got my virtual background. You can use this to make something to put your cups and saucers on or plates on. And all it is 7 bottle tops, milk bottle tops put together. And then I've just stuck a piece of plastic on the back just to hold them together. It was a chopping board. You got 5 for $1. And so one of them I've chopped up to use for different things. I have a problem at home whereby I am forever leaving my secateurs outside and they get rusty. But I've come up with a solution, and here's the miniature of the solution. The miniature of the solution is, let me just get a view of me, and then it makes it easier. Okay, we've gone to you instead of me, Linda, for some reason. Glynis, I'm not sure why it's on you. Okay, let me go back to gallery view. Right. What I've done is I've taken, this is a miniature, I've taken 2-liter bottles, and I've cut one longer than the other. And then all I've done is gone to the haberdashery and bought a zip that's the right size to go once round the circumference of my bottle. And then I stuck it with glue onto one side of that bottle and the other one on the other side of the other bottle. Now, when I close them together, I can just zip them up. Now I've got a container that can hold the bottles, my secateurs, and I just leave it there, and it's very quick and easy. I have it wherever I am, pop my secateurs inside, and they're done. And I have managed to save them very nicely this whole season so far. So we'll see in winter how well I do with them as well. Then the last thing we're going to do is a 2-liter milk bottle. And you take where the handle is and you draw on the size of the spade you want to make. And then just using scissors, you cut it off and you end up, there we go. You've got a little scoop. It can work, it's quite strong. And so you can dig with it, you can spread your seeds with it, you can scoop up anything that's in the way, and all you've done is used a 2-liter milk bottle, and it makes a really nice scoop. We've got a couple around the garden because they don't ever disintegrate. It doesn't matter if it rains, you can use them, and if they eventually give up, then you just make another one with your 2-liter bottle. Right, ladies, thank you. I think that is the last of my ideas before we close. Anybody got any ideas that they would like to add to what I have said here? Glynis, are you still on? You're on mute, Glynis.
Using my ironing board out in the garden now as a table to put pot plants on, because it's narrow and it doesn't take up much room and it's lightweight, so I can shift it around the garden for when I'm repotting or whatever. And I haven't ironed for 4 or 5 years, so.
Fantastic. That is such a good idea. Won't you take a photo of that and send it to Get Set Up? Then I can add, and just say attention for me, and then I will add it to the presentation that we're doing, because that is such a good idea. It really is. It's a lovely way of doing it. Right, let's just go back and do our final little bit of housekeeping that we do. We thank you so much for being in class with me today. It's been really great having you with us. if you've got anything you'd like to ask for that, you can either send the pictures to Liz at Get Set Up or anything you wish to do. Some related classes to this are My Birds in My Garden and Fairy and Gnome Gardens for us, not for little children. We also have trivia quizzes. This week is movie night. We have social hours, school memories, road trips, and it's called not quiz night, games night, but it's actually during the day in Australia, but it's at night in America. Those are all coming up this week. What's on my bucket list is another one coming up this week on my list. So there are lots of wonderful things to see. There's encounters with wildlife. So all in all, there are 11 different ones on this week. So I hope to maybe see some of you in those classes. I will send you some notes and some ideas and give you some choices of other classes that you might want to attend. And if you'd like to fill in the feedback as to how you enjoyed your class, that is also great. She's had to go into class. I tried to finish so she could go into class. So thank you so much, Linda, for being part of it. Here is your invite that you can invite friends to join you. And anything you want is at help@getsetup.io. Right. Thank you, Linda. There was some love. Hopefully you found some ideas that you were able to use, even if it was just one idea. But thank you so much for being in class. Have a wonderful day or evening. Bye for now.